All set? Good evening. Welcome to the April 10th, 2025 meeting of the FIC. We'll begin by opening the meeting and starting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Do we have people on the,
No,
remote?
not as of yet, no.
do we have a quorum?
1, 2, 3, 4, including me would be 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
No,
3,
voting.
Yeah, it would be 6.
which is,
Voting?
yeah, 6 voting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 6. What's our quorum size? I thought it was 7.
Somewhere in this pile is the existing guidelines. Mr. Mitchell, do you remember what we decided a quorum would be? I got it
Half
right
of the
here.
voting,
Hold
you
on.
can pull it up in 2 seconds, because I've been looking at it a lot.
Quorum will be established when 7 members of the roster of all voting members are present.
We don't have 7.
So we can discuss until someone else shows up.
Or someone
Right.
dials in.
No votes, just
right?
discussion.
Well, okay. Joe Lessard is not gonna make it. He's on work travel and currently on an airplane. Ray and Rich were in Concord. I don't know if, yeah, alright, I don't know who else would be coming. Bob Leary isn't coming.
They have no more selectmen rep.
I know they don't.
Do we know why?
Yes.
Could we share?
Bob basically messaged me before the elections and basically said he didn't see usefulness of him to stay attending the meetings, was the gist of it. That he had his other reasons, but summary version, going from there. That's about it. So, well, we can't vote
Well,
in the meeting.
does that mean the Board of Selectmen doesn't want a representative on
They,
the
so
committee?
when they reassigned representatives to the committee, they said none. They didn't assign one to the FIC. The last meeting that they held.
So do we get to reduce our quorum because we have reduced our,
Well, they were non-voting anyway.
were they non-voting?
Nope.
No, they were voting.
They were voting.
Budget's not voting.
Budget.
Okay.
That may change too, by the way, the Budgets Committee's taking that up with all their boards.
And their bylaws.
They won't let them vote. I can tell you that right now. Just based on all the stuff I went through with them, if you remember.
I know it's topic of conversation at the next budget meeting.
So I guess the question is, because selectmen did not send one, does that that does bring down our total voting membership.
Trouble is, we can't vote to change it because we don't have a quorum.
I feel like I'm in a vicious circle.
And give me
Yeah.
1 second, because I actually now I'm realizing I have to rejigger the spreadsheet. Because if you ever looked at the attendance spreadsheet, we have active members and past members. I now have to move Matt Shoemaker down to past member. When I
Yep.
move Bob Leary down to past member.
Yep.
But is a 7 in there?
It says 7 in the document.
Okay, so that's the problem.
Now, yeah. Does it specifically say 7 or does it say 5?
It says a quorum will be established when 7 members of the roster of all voting members are present.
Yep.
Okay.
Interesting dilemma.
So missing 3 people.
Superintendent O'Connell, as the board looks to revamp those bylaws, perhaps make it 50% instead of a set number of 7.
There is.
Since when we wrote that, it seemed like we had a more solid crew, and now it's become more of a
I think that is
flexible number. So I think it should be set at 50% of voting members as opposed to.
I'll see what I had put in there, but I think that was the idea.
Yeah, that was one of the
The
comments I
eventual
made during it, and
Yeah.
you adjusted.
Yeah.
Well, we can't vote on the meeting minutes. We can't vote on the new citizen co-chair.
Can I ask you a question? Why do we need a citizen co-chair?
Because it's in the bylaws. But it was decided that there would be a
It's
certain
meant
level
to-
of authority from the citizen who is just opposed to a school board member.
Do other boards have it?
No, but during the early conversations, it came up that this particular committee had much more of a community involvement. And since at the time, we had that huge response that it seemed to be, it was an idea that was thrown up that was gobbled, you know. So I also say I'm very happy because most of those bylaws were literally just my thoughts on page that everyone said sound good. So I like that it's actually going through a bit more of a rigorous process than,
Yeah,
Could we consider looking at that too?
we can, yeah. I mean, I know the school board is currently going through them now, right, with a whole bunch of stuff and hope to present once we get past the big ticket item on the agenda, that would be the next thing to bring up.
so just to let the committee know, if the bylaws were changed to 50%, currently there are 11 active voting members, so 6 would have done
Would be-
us to the 50% and allowed
Yeah.
for a quorum.
Yep. Oh, here's Carrie, non-voting. So, moving on to the school board updates, I guess. We'll skip around and we can have discussions all we want. Two things that came up during the school board updates was the fact that, yes, we are revamping the governance and the appointments and everything else when it comes to the FIC. They are in work right now. We have decided at the school board that we're gonna keep it as is until we get past the GMS recommendation. And then we would present the edits to the FIC and then go from there as an FIC/school board grouping. The other school board updates was, I know the other Joe Lassard mentioned in the email about minute taking. So there was some discussion about that at the last school board meeting. And I know we asked in the past to have the person that does the school board meeting minutes take our minutes. There was a discussion back then with the previous superintendent and it was told no. That is now being revisited by the school board. We have not made a decision on it. It is just currently up for discussion and being revisited at this point. Go ahead.
Just for discussion to throw it out there. If they won't do that, I think it would be prudent to have a non-voting member take the minutes in the future. Because I think there've been some issues with just tone and how it's perceived by some folks on the committee. But a non-voting member would seem to be more impartial.
You wanna do that?
I can't speak for the board, but as the superintendent, since that seemed to be the hurdle before, I'll tell you the superintendent has no issues with using Jan as the note taker. So, if I could ask my opinion at a board meeting, that's what I'm gonna say.
Is Jan the one that does it now?
Yeah, she does the board, school board minutes.
The question is, will she do it?
Yeah, she will.
Oh, she would? Oh, okay.
Chair,
Yes, sir?
I'm not a voting member, so I can't make motions. But if anyone who did perhaps wanted to motion to suspend the bylaws, we have a voting membership of 10 members, of which 6 are present today. So if anyone wanted to motion to suspend because a quorum has been established, I confirm that a quorum has been established so that this can become a voting meeting.
I would agree with you, but I think if we vote on anything controversial, it may be challenged.
Again,
What's
the
just giving you information for which to use.
What number is
I
the
hear
quorum?
you.
7.
We established it at 7 in the bylaws as opposed to 50%.
Oh, okay.
So
So we're gonna have 6.
7 makes sense.
So we're down to 10.
we are currently down to 10 voting members,
So it's 7 and not 6.
of which by the bylaws, 1 has actually lost voting rights. Based on attendance.
Right.
We only have 9.
But there's also,
He's still
Provision.
considered a voting member, he just doesn't have voting rights. Okay.
yeah, there's still provision to, after they attend a
If he,
meeting.
if he attends 2 in a row, then he gets them back, I believe.
I know it's difficult for the reps because on Thursdays they're in Concord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Can I suggest this then? Is that I think we can have our discussion that you had on the agenda. It may not, we won't be able to formally recommend it, but I think we can have the discussion and see if there's a consensus built, and at least the school board can see what we have worked on to date, and then the next meeting, if we have a quorum, we can
Bruno's trying to join.
finalize it.
1st of May.
Yeah.
Bruno's trying to join, but the link, he says the link is down.
Okay, we'll
I'm
have
in the
it.
meeting. Do.
We'll have to take care of that
Don't we
then.
have a meeting the 22nd of April, or is that wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, we do.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we have one.
That's
I thought-
after the next school board meeting, and
Yeah.
We have one in 10 days.
Yeah,
Yeah, they come, they space together, and then there's a lapse.
Was our last meeting really March 18th?
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, and we had 3 weeks in between.
Yeah.
To get on a Thursday thing, right?
Right. Copy the link, reply. Alright, I just sent it to Bruno. Bruno's still voting, right?
No, he's a voting member,
Right.
but he cannot vote.
Alright.
Oh,
but it counts.
But he counts.
It counts as an attendee.
Counts as an attendee. And
Oh.
towards quorum, though, I believe.
I was gonna say, because he is a voting member, he may not have voting rights, he would count towards the quorum count.
I
Seems
would
a little-
say yes.
Okay,
Yes.
alright,
It's just like at a school board meeting, if someone misses like a previous meeting, they typically would abstain from like voting on the minutes, for example, right?
right, yep,
But like they're present there. and
Correct.
They would be counted towards, like if there's only 3 of the 5 there, they would be there to make the quorum, if that makes
Alright.
sense.
thank you. Hi Bruno.
Hey, how's it going?
Alright. So, I will go as of this moment, we now have a quorum. So that way we can proceed with the agenda as written. First up on the agenda is the meeting minutes from 3/18, 3/19. I thought it was 3/19 when I read it. I know Joe Lassard sent me comments, I did not receive any other comments on the meeting minutes, and he didn't have any specific edits to it, just a few comments in general about going around the tone that you mentioned, Denise, of looking for more neutral meeting minute takers, or more neutral tone to the minutes. Does anyone have any last minute comments or conversation around the meeting minutes? Alright, I will make a motion to vote in the meeting minutes from the last FIC meeting, which I think was 3/19/2025.
3/18, wasn't it?
3/18.
Was it
3/18.
3/18? Alright.
That's what I have as the attendance. I could be wrong though.
I'll go back and look at the calendar, but,
That's what it says here.
okay. So from 3/18, my agenda is wrong on the date.
Yes, 3/18.
Alright, so I have a motion,
Second.
seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, nays? Abstain? 1 abstained, so passes 501. Sorry, Bruno online? Oh, wait,
He's abstained.
abstained, thank you.
Yeah, I can't vote.
Alright, next topic of discussion. Hey, look at that, we're still right on time. Election of a new citizen co-chair. So before this goes forward, I do want to mention that Joe Lassard did, when he replied on the meeting minutes, did mention if nominated, he would accept that nomination. as citizen co-chair, just so it's on the table and going forward. So,
I'd like to nominate Marilyn Wade.
I'll second that.
second nomination,
Nominate Joe.
I'll second that.
so we have, all right. So Joe is accepted, do you accept?
No, I do not.
Okay. So we have a single nomination
But thank
for a citizen co-chair. I make a motion to elect Joe Lassard to citizen co-chair of the FIC.
Second.
You gotta discuss.
Discussion? Barring none, I make a motion.
Second.
Seconded.
I thought we did that twice already.
Yeah. All those,
You gotta work everything in,
yeah.
follow the rules.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 4. He has to abstain.
Gonna abstain.
You're gonna abstain as well. All those opposed? 1 opposed, 1 abstained, so passes 4-1-1.
Technically, the Robert's rules are supposed to say, are there any other nominations 3 times and then bang the table? I don't want to be the stickler for the rules, but.
Well, that'll be fun for him to get off the airplane and find out.
Sorry, just taking notes. We did already go through the school board updates. Bruno, where you're coming in. The 2 main updates are that we are looking at bringing in the person where the school board is discussing and bringing in the person who takes the meeting minutes for the school board meetings to do it for the FIC. It was previously said no by the previous superintendent, so it's coming back up for discussion. And the other school board updates were that the school board's going through and making adjustments to the governance and the bylaws of the FIC, which once we get past the GMS recommendation, we will be presenting to the FIC to go through, edit, and go from there and come up with a new set of bylaws and governance going forward.
Dan,
Okay.
Yep.
I assume that the last school board meeting was when all the appointments got redone, that you got appointed here.
So,
And that Peter got appointed here, and
Yeah, it
that
was-
is no longer.
yes, so it was finalized for the FIC. The remainder of the other committee assignments was done at the meeting previous to that.
Okay.
So, yes, I guess I should make that announcement. Matt will be no longer a part of the FIC. He has chosen to step down to allow Peter and I to continue moving forward with the FIC. It was discussed at the last school board meeting between Peter and I, and there was kind of a little bit of back and forth. We said, do you want co-chair? No, you can have it, kind of scenario. And so I will
Rock,
remain
paper, scissors.
as, for the foreseeable future, the school board voting co-chair of the FIC. Peter can vote in my absence. Again, we're here on behalf of the school boards, not as citizens. And we do have Matt as a backup if there's ever a time where Peter and I, one or both of us, can't make it to a meeting.
Thank you. Any other FIC related stuff from the last school board meeting?
It's been all about the governance.
And the note taking.
Yeah, and the note taking.
Brian, are we gonna try to finalize that at the next?
It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
So.
Did they, did we ever get like a just formal, hey, by the way, we're not gonna make your deadline and we have to come up with a new deadline for when we have a recommendation?
They,
It was brought up at the budget meeting that we missed our deadline, I noticed.
it,
That was nice.
so it was discussed, right? So the school board at the time did recognize that it was likely not going to get there. Matt, Peter, and I all expressed at the school board meetings that we feel that we are close, and I kinda have it like, we should be able to get everything together with enough of detail to say, here's what we recommend, and then the details can be scoped and finalized as that process gets started. At tonight's meeting, that's the goal, right, hope. Because I feel like last meeting we came to we all started
Close.
corralling around a decent consensus going forward.
I'm
But
more
that,
optimistic than I am after last meeting, but, okay.
and I think last meeting there was a significant portion of us that were getting hung up around, semantics and definitions versus, like, in the vast majority, we all kind of agreed the same thing, just, in loose terms of, architect firm versus design build firm, but still, we need a partner to help us and work us through this versus go out, pay for it, and just be done. Go ahead.
I'd just like to note it that we actually haven't voted on the big picture of what we're gonna recommend before we're starting to get in the minutia of what.
No, we haven't, and that's
That
what.
would be nice to do first.
That's what I'm trying to get to tonight. I want that vote tonight. It is my goal. That is also, Peter, the school board would really like that vote tonight.
We could talk about
Would-
wording anytime.
And when you say recommendation, what I believe we're headed toward is simply just recommend hiring a consultant.
It sounded like they wanted a more firm recommendation.
I think it's more than that. It's a recommendation to go in this direction,
Which is?
which I think we've sort of settled upon renovation and a potential addition.
With a,
And the redistribution.
I think that, in my opinion, that's got to be part of it.
Well, but that's not what I think we settled.
No, I agree.
Can I
But
make a suggestion when you're done talking?
no, go ahead.
We voted down doing both together. I think to be as accurate as we can, we need to vote on them individually.
What do you mean?
Vote on renovation in addition, and vote on separately whether or not we want to do the reallocation, because we voted together and we denied that.
I think the decision on whether we redistribute kids is strictly in the hands of the school board.
I think there was a lack of information, people are available. I still think with declining enrollment, you're gonna have a tough sell on a renovation without demonstrating we've appropriately and accurately used as much space within the district. So unless we can demonstrate that all space is efficiently and effectively used, I don't see a big renovation or 6 to 8 classrooms passing.
I'm going to politely disagree that the
Not surprised.
redistribution doesn't do anything for the educational benefits of the community.
And I absolutely disagree with you.
And does the budget committee share that, or is it
Well, we
your
haven't
personal
voted.
opinion?
The budget committee is not a voting representative, it's absolutely my opinion. I also know, if you look long-term, what we're looking at taxes-wise, and the fact that the state is looking at consolidating SAUs, I think it's when we don't have I would not sell to the voters an expansion of a school with a declining enrollment. I can tell you that right now. So, what the problem being is, you can say what you want, CHS is recognized within this building, within the district, as being underutilized. You're looking to put additional space at a school without justifying that we actually need it.
I think if we need to more clearly define renovation. Renovation would, in my mind, is do the on-site, in-site stuff, and may or may not mean removing the 50s, 60s building. And again, in my mind, that is not a good decision. It's going to make it more expensive, it's going to make it longer to do.
I'm sorry, removing it is not a good decision? Or removing it is, I'm sorry.
Removing it is not a good decision.
Okay, I agree with you, thank you.
Okay, it's going to extend the length of time it takes to do it, it's going to cost a heck of a lot more money. The repairs to that part of the building are included in the on-site, in-site thing. The renovation I'm speaking of is maybe making some changes, to speak to some of the educational things that you bring up, Denise. But I think that in order to get something passed, which is still got to be part of the goal, we have to come in at a number that the folks are willing to pay.
And to the educational parts, if we reallocate students within here, you free up space in GMS that allows for moving items to the core, which is educational benefit. It allows us to do the things that GMS would like to do because we will have freed up space So the argument that, or the statement that reallocating does not help the educational aspects, I think is completely inaccurate.
You are now affecting 3 different schools, 3 different administrations
For
of the school.
for maybe a year, the long-term benefit outweighs.
We've not seen that. You haven't even proven any beneficial educational benefit.
You are literally freeing up space at a lower cost that will achieve the same goal. I'm just telling you, we can argue this.
I'm not
Ultimately,
disagreeing.
it's going to be up to the voters, and if the voters say you could have done this cheaper, we'll still be having this conversation.
I'm not disagreeing it's a cheaper option. I don't think it's a better option. I
And
don't think it's even as good an option
Again,
educationally.
we're gonna disagree on that, because I think it's an excellent option. And I think students will benefit, especially at the high school, where now you can increase the student body to allow for expanded foreign language. You can allow accelerated students take accelerated classes. You will have a reduced student body in elementary and middle school. There is absolutely benefits to being able to put a core that this GMS is advocating for. I think we need to keep an open mind as to what we think will be beneficial, and I am 100% convinced that reallocating, while it may not be what we've done in the past, is not going to be detrimental to the educational outcomes of our students.
If there's,
I don't care if we've done it in the past or not. Anything that's a good idea, I would support. However, I think you put out rest your AP classes and your honors classes and your upper levels. There's only so much room in that school. And if you're trying to keep classes of 7 to 10 kids going, those are
Why-
the classes that are going to decrease the most, which is your AP
Why would
classes.
Why would we want classes of 7 to 10 kids?
That may be the number who want to take the AP, 10. I think, do they need
Why-
8
What's the,
kids?
we have like a minimum number of 8 or something?
8.
Perhaps we should be
We
advocating.
actually don't have a, legitimate minimum, we have a
Yeah.
working minimum of 10,
Okay.
Right.
Like, now there are exceptions to that in very specific circumstances, but like the working when we build a schedule is 10.
So
To
there-
give you
there-
like an example,
Okay.
like there is one of the AP courses, maybe it's computer science, don't quote me on the exact AP course, because I looked at it last week and I can't remember. There's like 7 kids enrolled,
See,
we're
to
gonna
me-
run that course because it's.
But to me,
it's
that's more of an administration thing. I don't understand why we're only having 7 kids sign up for AP Computer Science. Quite frankly,
I'm not
more-
sure why we're even allowing 7 kids in a class.
No,
We're not
but
a
even
private
still,
school.
we should be talking about advocating and encouraging students to take more of these courses, which then pulls them out of other courses. So we should be beefing up our APs. Those should not be running at 6 to 7 kids when we should be filling those classes.
But AP is not the track for everybody.
No, but if we're
No,
gonna
but
say
we-
we're sending
we-
our kids,
It shouldn't be.
but if we want our kids to have opportunities to achieve top schools, and we're not offering the APs or encouraging them to take it, we're handicapping our kids when they're trying to compete against other students at top tier schools.
That's gonna cost money to compete against top-tier schools.
How? If we're offering a class of 7, we can easily we can put 5 to 10 more kids in that class. That doesn't cost us any more money.
You're not gonna get the kids.
The
The
problem is half the.
enrollment is,
And that, to me, is a cultural issue and not a cost issue.
Been off topic, but.
Yep.
Well, so that, I get your point. The hard parts that I have about redistribution comes into, we lose our middle school sports program.
No, we don't.
No, you don't.
They stay at the high school.
Different.
The reality is, though,
So
No, you don't.
It's different, we wouldn't lose it, but it would change the parameters of the middle school.
No,
sports.
we don't, yeah, we don't lose
Right,
it.
so 5th and 6th would not be able to participate.
I would say no, yes, in that league, like, we'd have to figure, like, this, if you're gonna go down that road, this is all the work that has to
Right.
happen, right?
but
Like,
it's not like students in 5th and 6th grade don't have options for sports. We have a very robust rec group. So the reality is, I'm not gonna ask grandma and grandpa, ooh, stop. Apparently I put PM instead of AM, that's fantastic. So, again, it's gonna come down to what is the community willing to accept for trade-offs. Some people are willing to accept the fact that 5th and 6th grade students may have to extend rec as opposed to having middle school teams. That's a cost we're gonna have to consider.
Yeah.
I don't think that should be the hill that kills it.
No, and I agree. The hill that kills it for me, right, and again, me personally, not the school board, comes down to the fact that the other 2 schools are now in a model that is not replicated anywhere else in the state.
That's not true either.
there's few examples, I think is what it is, right? I think to summarize, like, the reconfiguration thing, one, there's gonna be costs associated with changing the high school, right? Like, to give you one tangible example, if you're gonna put the 7th and 8th grade on the SAU wing, and those two hallways up and down there, which is the logical place to put it, like on paper. You have to build bathrooms. You have to create bathrooms because there's not bathrooms in those hallways.
Yep.
And you gotta create bathrooms that are exclusive to the 7th and 8th graders. So we gotta figure out the costs and how to do everything associated with that.
Is there space for bathrooms on those 2 floors?
Maybe, probably upstairs, yes. Downstairs, I'm not sure where the plumbing's gonna come in, but that doesn't mean it's impossible, just saying like, I don't know. There's not like a visually obvious place, because like if you've ever been to the SAU, we don't have bathrooms. We have to go across the hall to the administrative bathrooms.
But they aren't that, realistically, if you don't mind the fact that they're sharing the library and other stuff, those bathrooms are accessible to the first floor.
So this is where, when we've done research and talked to other school districts, everyone I've talked to said you have to separate. They're highly recommend that you separate the bathrooms out.
Well, sure, because the 7th and 8th graders trash them.
But
High school,
and I think like just of the stuff that happens in bathrooms in high schools, you don't want 7th and 8th graders in there for that.
Yep.
Um, and like, so that's just one thing that you have to look at, that you have to reconfigure some of the space to make actual classrooms. Now that is possible, like there is like this raw square footage, but you have to do that, and there's gonna be a cost associated with that. So I'm not saying pro or con of that, but
Right.
like, if you're looking at the cheapest option, you just have to remember there is
Absolutely.
gonna be costs associated with that. I think in the academic thing, while there are other schools, like I was at Hopkinton last week, they do the pre-K 2, 3, 6, no, they do, excuse me, pre-K 3, 4, 6, 7, 12 model.
So
there are
the
other-
one that's proposed is being done, so it does exist, okay.
Yep, and they had pros and cons to that,
Well, every
right? Like,
system's
you know,
gonna have
those
pros and
are the
cons.
things, like they said, and I've now heard this at a couple places, cause I've been trying to research, you gotta stick third up with them. You gotta go 3 through 6, if you're gonna do it. Hopkinton's like, if we could do it tomorrow, we would stick 3 up, because there's a difference in learning. And like someone summarized this, the difference between learn to read and then read to learn. The flip over is in 3rd grade, so put 3rd grade up with the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And that model is still an elementary model, which is just different than what we have currently for our 5th and 6th graders, and we just have to process that with everyone, right? The 5th and 6th graders are in a middle school model. If we go to this format, they would revert back to an elementary school model, so that's just different.
Hate to
Just
break,
different.
that might be a big selling point for a lot of
It
people.
could be.
Because there's a lot of people who are upset that 5th graders are middle schoolers.
And then the big thing that people say is you're not in a middle school with 7th and 8th graders if they're up in the high school, you're in a junior high
Mhm.
model, which is a different model than what we have currently. And that's just something that you have to educate people about, the differences in this when you're trying, if you were to go down this road and stuff.
So help me understand the difference between a middle school and a junior high school, because there used to always be elementary school, junior high school, high school.
I think in simplest terms,
Yeah.
in middle school, you're still kind of wrapping your arms around them a little bit, right? You like identify that the maturity is kind of young, on the younger side and stuff like that. The way you structure your learning is still kind of group-based, you know what I mean? Like we have a 5th grade team, a 7th grade team, an 8th grade team, a 6th grade team, they're still teamed in that. Like there's a lot of adults kind of teaming with them and keeping them together in kind of groups. Junior high, they're like mini high schools. Like that's just, you're going, you're on your own. We're not teaming you anymore, right? Like you're gonna just go to your classes and you're gonna like kind of be in that high school mindset, but not quite, because you're not all the way there. It's just like an instructional, like kind of like model. Like you think about it in the middle school right now, how they do their unified or arts on the cycle that they're on and that type of thing. Like they do something for a amount of time and then change it up. Junior high model, it's just like you have a mini high school, right? Like you sign up for your electives and you take them, right? There's not like an exposure to all of it. It's not in some sort of rotation, semester 1, semester 2, so on and so forth. I mean, there's a lot of like other littler things, but if I could generalize just like quickly in 30 seconds, that's like the big difference. I'm not saying pro or con or either, it's just like a different model.
I guess we can have a long philosophical discussion, but my junior high school was 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, and I think that's,
6, 3,
And we
some
were-
are,
And we changed classes
Yep.
and all that like big boys.
while I was in middle school, it was a junior high and then became a middle school, and if you ask me as a kid, I noticed no difference.
Yeah.
So like, You know, but there are like subtle messaging with how you do things and stuff like that, you know. I'm not saying they're hugely significant, I don't wanna think this is. I think going from middle to elementary is very different, because you have more of a singular classroom teacher versus rotating classes and stuff like that, plus in just how you're doing all your instruction and everything like that. But there is like small little things that like may not make that big of a difference in the big scheme of things, but like when you talk to other educators who are on this model, it'd be like, yeah, you're not mimicking a middle school with your 7th and 8th graders, you're doing that kind of junior high experience, so.
Can I ask a question? Going back to GMS as is, obviously there's pros and cons to redistribution. I think we need to continue to look at it. Going back to GMS, one of the things that we need to decide is it an option going forward to keep the portables in service for the next 20 years? The On-Site Insight report identifies that they have a service life at least through their projected timeline.
Well, the ones at LMS were there for decades.
I want to know that question because it's a big deal.
I think that's what you would go out and try and have someone tell you.
Yeah,
Right,
that's.
like, I don't think we're making that decision today whether or not to keep the portables.
The question I have, are we willing to consider them being a 20-year or at least foreseeable future option?
I think anything's on the table, right? Like, if it
Okay.
makes sense, right? Like,
All
we
right.
talked about repurposing that as the SAU. We've talked about repurposing that as different learning environments. I think the 4-pack's in a lot better shape than the 2-pack, right?
Well,
Like,
it's 8 years newer.
yeah, and just like that 2-pack's, I know what's in the On-Site Insight report. It's not in great shape. Like, you know, like, I don't know how, like, they're gonna fail at some point.
All I
You're
want to
gonna have
know,
do something.
all I want to know among this group, is there any reason to not consider them being a long-term viable continuation?
I have a question.
Well, I think that you gotta define what long-term is.
20 years.
Okay, yeah, but I think, like, if you're gonna do this level of a project, you're doing it for, like, ever. Like, you
No,
like, you don't wanna, like.
no.
you know,
I
like-
fully disagree with it. The reason being is one of the things we do not know. And we can't sell voters on a forever solution when we don't know what the enrollment's going to do. The projection is enrollment will continue to drop.
Well, when I say like that, I mean, like, you're gonna have I don't know how you do this without bonding, right? Like.
Well, I'll tell you how to do it.
And-
I'll tell you how to do it. Well, go ahead, sorry, finish your
In my
comment.
opinion, whatever solution you pick for GMS is gonna involve some level of bonding,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that bond's gonna be at least 20 years, right? And you don't wanna be in a situation where you're still paying off that bond and then have to address those failing portables. I just think that's not very long-term fiscally
No, I
responsible.
disagree with you. Go ahead, Denise.
Is there any security issues with having kids out in portables versus in the main?
I mean, is it a security issue? I mean, maybe Dan can comment more on that, you know, like it's a different type of security. I don't know if issue I would classify it, but you gotta be a little bit, just how you handle your day-to-day security in that building a little bit different, you know?
I wouldn't call it a security issue, I would classify it as I don't think they're any less safe in the portables than they are in the big building. However, it is now 3 facilities that you have to contain in that case. There's an access point, so God forbid something happens, in order to respond, I actually have to leave a secure environment to respond to another environment. You know, there's that access point. If we wanted to secure the whole school, they require exposing, you know, to get them from the portables. It's generally, if you can do everything within one building, that's ideal.
And I think that goes to the point of, again, to my mind, getting rid of the portables, moving the kids around, you can get every kid in the building, and they're in one secure location.
Well, in which case, rather than get rid of them, you repurpose them.
Right, we could repurpose it, you could sell it to the police department.
Because we own those
Right.
straight out.
Yeah.
Real, I'm serious,
Evidence.
you could sell it to the police department for
Actually-
storage or office space or whatever.
Actually, if you actually want to use them, take the 4 good ones, move them up to CHS
Why?
For SAU.
for additional capacity at the high school with the redistribution.
That does not
Then you
seem
have the
like a
same
good
problem
idea.
with kids being outside.
What's
running
that?
back and forth.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just move the problem.
You just move the problem up the
The
street.
point being is if they're good enough to be used, they should be used. And then, so the point, my point is, unless there's some substantive reason not to use them, we need to consider them to be in place for the next 15 years. And if we do that, then what we do is rehab the 1930s building. It answers the 3 classrooms that he needs and gives you another space to expand your special services. You can do everything in GMS for $5 million.
So I will go with, I think that's gonna come down to whoever we partner with, it will probably give us like the best options as what to do with those portables.
When you say best options, what do you mean by that?
Slap SAU on the front of it, call it a.
It would be their recommendations, I mean, what I see going forward is that we partner with a firm, I don't care what type, right, is we partner with a firm with a not to exceed number and we give them a list of wants.
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you expect the firm to come in and tell you differently than we just discussed about the portables?
I expect them to go through the portables top to bottom, but if they're still usable, then they can be used with the school district or someplace else in the town.
But the point being is that is our decision, ours being the school boards and this committee, not the firms. You're simply going to ask them to affirm what Onsite Insight's already done, that the condition is good for another 10 to 15 years, and in the meantime, as Onsite Insight, you need to plan to replace the HVA systems at year such and such and such and such.
So that firm will also give us a bonded quote as to what it would be.
What do you mean a bonded quote?
They would give us a certified quote that they would stand by and bid on.
No, they won't, not an engineering firm. They give you an engineer's estimate that is extremely reasonably accurate based upon engineering expertise.
So, alright. We're not gonna go forward and give a recommendation to the school board that's gonna list out every single recommendation and every single scope objective. The point of the recommendation is gonna be for a direction for the school board to go and to look at their capacity and their decision. With that is gonna come down to is, my opinion is, whoever we partner with, we're gonna ask for options. And those options, if with a, call it a figure, right, Rick put out like 15 million at the last meeting, saying, what can we get with 15 million, here's our list of wants. Here's everything that we have to work with, 30s, the courtyard, the portables, the existing building, as it sits.
Okay, what if I say,
Can we do with 15 million?
what can you do with 5?
I'm gonna.
Why
Can I-
5?
Because that's what Onsite
No,
Insight,
it's not.
It
Like, I
is.
just have to correct it. I'm reading the report right now. It says $7.7 million.
that's the total GMS over 20 years. I'm
Correct.
talking
So
about,
why are we talking $5 million?
because that gets you, it gets all the things that have to be taken care of immediately, including the roof, including the HVAC, including the electrical upgrades, including the rehab of the 1930s building with an elevator. It gets you into a completely state of good repair. The remainder of that is other things that come on, just as it will at the CHS. You don't do everything, that 7 million is over time.
If you're doing all
The
that
5
work, why
is
are you not
immediately,
doing the rest of it?
because it's not needed. If you
It
look
is.
at the time.
report says it's in, this is the report you're quoting. And it
I
says
am, but look at the
$7.7
timeline,
million.
look at the timeline for the remainder of that.
So I will also go with, when they did that report, they absolutely said in that report, it is replacement in kind. Not upgrades, not including engineering.
No, I disagree, there's $210,000 allowance in the on-site insight for engineering.
Okay,
But
but
it's
that's not gonna cover everything that you need for engineering services at that building.
I disagree with you. I don't know the answer to that.
I think we have to be honest though, and talk about the $5 million or the $7 million. To replace stuff in kind would be a waste of time.
It would
No,
be-
it would not.
Ron, let me
It's
finish.
ridiculous to state that.
Why would we put something similar to a 40-year-old boiler together? There's gonna be better technology, there's gonna have to be some upgrades.
Hey,
So that 5 million, maybe, or whatever it is, staying with the 5 million number, Superintendent, maybe to get more up-to-date equipment, it's gonna be another $2 million.
I have a question for you. All that money we spent in LMS, is that heating system better than the one that was there? For 10 million bucks?
I would have to ask Jen, and I would have to ask the facility team.
How many years of savings will it cost to repay the stupidity of what we did up there at LMS?
Well, and we're trying not to make that mistake again.
Exactly. So we ought to be looking at it in kind. I have I know a person in my neighborhood to replace their boiler. They had a guy come in and sell them, the world is this beautiful European furnace. He cost $30,000 to replace this furnace.
Seems a
A
little-
typical is $7.
So I'm coming.
Because he replaced in kind for $7, he sold them a bill of goods for $30.
So I also upgraded my furnace from an 80% to a 97.7% 10 years ago, and I've made my money back 2 full cents.
And how much did it cost you?
10 grand.
10 grand, great. That's typical. It's not 30. That's what we'll be doing if we put an addition on there.
Okay, so.
I'm not talking about an addition, I'm talking about the boiler.
We are, because we're talking, single numbers of millions versus tens of millions going the other direction.
That's not what he said at all.
Go ahead, Denise.
Yes, it
We seem
is.
to be going in circles. I liked Rich's suggestion of putting a reasonable $15 million, $16 million dollar renovation addition on
Do
the
we know
table.
what the impact of a $15 or $16 million renovation would be on the tax bill?
You
that
all
would
seem
be-
to think would pass.
Yeah, I can tell you.
When everyone around the table was talking, they thought less than 20 million would
It
pass.
would, quite frankly, I think we need to understand what the annual impact is.
It's approximately $750 a year.
However,
I
I
think it's
think
more than that, but yeah.
No,
we
that's
need
what
a
it is.
reasonable compromise for what everyone on the table wants. We need to all support this compromise. We can then go ahead in the future and ask for the gym as a separate item in the future. We can ask for a new cafeteria.
Right, which is going back to what Peter was suggesting about, we do a large chunk,
Basics.
and then we start phasing out the remainder of that stuff. But
Rich's
as-
and Peter's suggestion.
Right, right, yeah, Rich repeated it, and I think that was a major point of the discussion going around. But I think this large chunk up front, I think we have to look at, if we're gonna do a 20-year bond, right, we have to consider that we have to look at what needs to be done in 20 years. And the reasoning is, I don't wanna have to go pay for something else on another bond, as I'm still paying off the first bond.
If you go put together a large bond and try to sell GMS, the difficulty is gonna come is voters are gonna say, well, wait a minute now, Onsite Insight says you got $28 million that I gotta come up with. When are you gonna hit me with that little juicy nut?
The voters don't know anything about
Only if you
outside
tell them
insights.
that, which isn't accurate. I
Huh?
mean, it's all part of the narrative. If you go and say, well, don't you do this because they'll come up with 28 million, you're selling bill of goods.
I think.
That's what you've been doing this entire thing, is sowing unfounded ideas, FUD, constantly to work against the program completely.
No.
That's all I've seen you do.
Good. I hope when I stand up in front of the voters, like I did with the police station, and give the reasons
worked
why
well.
that was so stupid.
This
I-
police
I-
station, yeah, look, 2 years, they needed something new. You did a great job with that, Ron.
Yeah, you know what, watch the Board of Selectmen's meeting next
Guys,
Monday.
10 years ago?
And I'll show you
hold on,
what I
hey,
can do.
This is all getting off topic, we're
No, it's
on
not.
GMS.
Can I mention one thing that's off topic? Sorry. I watched the budget meeting just to see how other meetings ran in the town. The one thing I believe John Davidson said is that we all have to get behind an idea and we all have to support it.
Correct.
And I think that is 100% accurate, because if we are all fighting amongst ourselves,
Well, the reality is, nothing that ever comes out of the budget committee is generally full could vote, and I can tell you that right now. But the reality is, if you're asking me to get on board with your idea, that's not happening. The reality is, yes, we can put forth 15 million. We don't know that that's what's gonna sell, because not only do we have a big school, we have a police station issue, we're gonna have to replace fire trucks, we have a number of issues within town, and quite frankly, right now, the school, no offense to you guys, is taking all the money, so we can't address other issues. So now you're asking them to, again, funnel more money to the school, which is then gonna take away money from other needs. 15 million, I understand that there are people in this room that think that's gonna pass. I'm not convinced. Because state funding's gonna go down, federal funding's gonna go down, enrollment's down, so more state funding's gonna go down, and we have all these other big ticket items on the horizon. I don't see 15 million passing.
I think if we don't support the schools, the enrollment will go down specifically because.
Supporting the
town's not
schools
supporting
does
the
not
schools.
mean spending money
No.
unwisely.
If-
That, we did that, we supported LMS, and how'd that work out for us?
Have you looked at have you been watching the real estate? If you watch real estate, every house that comes up has a pending sign on it within a week.
I love real estate. I watch the
Okay, so
websites all the time.
so that is, there's not any impact on whether people are gonna move in here or your prices of your house gonna, so
Buying
that's
those
not a
houses,
factor.
you can't use that as a correlation.
Pardon me?
You don't need to buy those houses.
People buying the houses tend less likely to have kids right now, so your enrollment's
But
gonna
I
probably
went
go
to this town
down.
specifically for the schools, and when I got here, my kids went to the schools, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm committed because I bought a house.
Actually, you know what I'm disappointed in the schools more than anything else? Is the test scores in this school are abominable.
No, the fact that our GMS is falling apart is abominable.
Well, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have your kid in a nice, bright, new school?
Yes.
And have them, if not anywhere near level of proficiency in learning?
I rather my kids being in a safe, healthy environment.
Oh, good, if that's all you care about, that's fine.
Having a town that supports education by itself is going to elevate the educators, it's going to elevate the students, and it's going to show an investment in the future of our town.
And test scores are not everything. Test scores are not everything.
And our job is,
GPA and grades are not everything.
our job is not to make
You've
sure
got
everyone
to
goes
be
to
joking.
Harvard. Well, our job is to
Am
make sure
I
everyone
hearing
gets
that
to do
right?
what they want.
Yeah, you
I mean,
are.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
They can't choose their students.
Like,
I
They have
was
to take-
serious. Are
Yes.
you absolutely
Yes.
serious?
100%. He has to take every student in this town, and if he doesn't take them, he has to ship them out somewhere where they do get educated. They don't get to pick their students like
What is
private
it-
schools and
what
charter
is it
schools.
Charter schools do not pick their schools. They are a public school, and they have to take anybody who comes in, and they get less support.
we
So
don't,
let's
we
keep
don't
that
need
off the
to
table.
argue about test scores. We need to accept they're not the end all be all. I would take pride in strong test scores. That is usually, that would be great. I would love to increase the test scores here. That is a legitimate goal of mine, is to increase the test scores, particularly at the high school level. I actually think GMS is in good shape. The middle school in pockets is in really good
Actually,
shape.
quite proud of our test scores.
And I would like to see some improvement in the high school, and they've been chipping away at it. The SAT scores have been going up the whole time Jake's been there. There's been some positive signs there. Yes, I would like test scores to improve in the school district. That's 100% true. But it is not the end-all be-all for whether or not a school is successful.
What
It
is
not.
What is the measure of success for education?
It depends on what you're trying to chase down, and for each student, that is different. That is radically different, right? Like for some people,
Explain it to me then, please.
for some students, graduating high school is still a significant event in their lives and a significant accomplishment. And that is great. And if we can get them through high school and position them in a place where they can get a job and they can have a successful adult life, that is a victory, and that we have succeeded with that student. For other students, it's getting into a high-end college on the other end of things. And we get kids in high-end colleges. We have a kid going to Yale this year out of this, or he's accepted, whether or not he goes, that's up to him. But a kid going to Yale out of this graduating class. Little graduating class of less than 100 kids, we've got a kid going to Yale. That's awesome, right? You measure those things by different metrics. I think a huge indicator, if you're talking about the college side of things, is what is the retention rate of those kids getting a degree within 5 years. If they've gotten a degree within 5 years of going into college, that usually means you've set them up to be successful. It's a huge rate, huge number in my opinion on that. There's a ton of different things. I love the New Hampshire Scholar number. What percentage of your graduating class is the New Hampshire Scholar metric? Which is a certain set of classes that a kid takes to prepare them, that the state itself is very proud of, that we hit that type of stuff in business groups. There are a ton of different metrics. It's not just an SAT score or SAS score or anything along those lines. There's lots and lots of metrics.
And how do you, I'm gonna come to the school board and ask you this question, so, I've been watching the school board, and the last time that Professor Taylor presented the metrics, the test, I hope people looked at them, it's abysmal. The tests are abysmal.
Because it's showing a growth model. It's not showing their actual raw score on that.
It's what the state uses to compare. My point being is
No, the test,
Litchfield.
no, I'm gonna cut you off, because the data she was showing last time she did it was iReady test scores. That's not what the state uses to do their assessments. iReady is an internal measure on how they are at grade level. So when you start a school year and you have numbers in the teens and 20s, because they're not on grade level yet, that's obvious, they're just starting the grade. And as we got to about the midpoint of the year, the numbers were hovering more around 50% because we're about 50% through the school year. And that number's gonna increase over the course of the year.
And what is the metric that you will present to the town that says this school district is at a high level of educational quality compared to
I'm gonna
any place
present a
else?
ton of metrics, and it's gonna be dependent on who the family and the student is on whether or not we're successful.
And when are we gonna see that?
We present this stuff at the board meeting all the time. We're showing the iReady scores. We'll report SAT scores. We report
What-
graduation rates.
if-
We'll report New Hampshire Scholar numbers. These
Yeah.
are all numbers we report.
What, there needs to
You're
be,
looking for a single number that you
I'm
can
looking
point
for
to.
some definition.
That single number doesn't exist.
I'm
Ask
looking
any-
for, I'm looking for you to define for the people of this town, what is the level of education that a student gets here compared to the rest of the state or the nation?
It depends on the student. It's an individual programming. For example, college is not important anymore. So we can't use that as a metric, college acceptance or going into college or any of that. For some kids, it's a metric, but for other kids, it's not. A better path may be go to a tech program or an apprenticeship program and get into a different field that they're gonna be successful in. There's not a singular metric to determine success for all of our students.
And what are you going to, how does any?
Just watch. You can watch. Watch how
I
this
have
goes for the
watched,
next
I haven't
week.
seen anything that answers my questions.
We're in April. Give it time.
So
Thank
it's
you.
the same, it's the
I
same
hope it
quality
happens.
of question of what makes a person successful in their life. It's different for every single person, right? I think I'm doing a darn good job at my age of being successful. I've got a friend who started his own trade company, never went to college, saved a ton more money than I ever did, and he's very successful, and I would consider him very successful. So it's a personal opinion of what is determined as success.
I'm gonna just add too, I think I went to very reasonable educational places along my life. No one's ever asked me where I graduated high school, college, or any other degrees I have. People don't care. They care that you're competent, they care that you care about them.
Right.
They really don't care where you went.
When I hire people, I don't ask about their GPAs, it depends on the level and where they're coming into my workforce. So, to get back to getting behind a single recommendation and moving forward is, I guess, if we go back to where Rich was talking about, Denise, you brought up a question I'll say before we had a quorum, about making these recommendations each on their own versus together, because it was voted down by Joe to make them together. Ron wrote an RFP that I sent out with the meeting minutes, or I suggest everyone read. I never sent them to you, I apologize. So the question kind of comes into, do we want to have a vote on what Denise mentioned about voting on these separately versus together?
I think you have to, since we voted against doing them together. I think that's the only way around it, if you want them both to go forward. We did vote against them as a board.
We voted against them because one lacked sufficient information, not because
But
it
we
wasn't a
voted
good
against
idea.
it.
So, there's nothing saying you can't vote for them together, it's a new motion.
So we talking about including the redistributing the kids? again, I go back to, I think that's a decision for the school.
At this point, we don't have anywhere enough information to make a final recommendation on anything. I think
The recommendation should simply be to hire the firm to get more information.
and that's what I wrote. If you look at it, it talks about
Because-
hiring it, and it talks about, having a firm capable of helping us decide whether additions, repairs, or changes at the high school to support redistribution is necessary. That's what the recommendation that I sent out does. It doesn't do any more than that.
Can we move on, voting on doing them individually and putting the first one a $16 million?
So.
So I can tell
Make a
you,
motion.
yeah, I can tell you now, if we
Yeah.
don't consider redistribution, I don't think you'll find much support for the other one. You
Right.
have to at least have the conversation and prove it's not
I
successful.
would like to vote on this, because I think we have to go someplace.
Go ahead, make a motion.
Accomplish.
Can I say something? I'm sorry.
Please.
So, Rich's suggestion last meeting, we were in agreement on, we ought to be able to put a program together that would provide a long-term solution. And we had a whole discussion about the financial metrics of that. And, settled on a, $15 or $16 million, might be sellable. And then at the very end, Rich sort of went through sort of the different categories of things that could go into that solution. And, considering yes or no to keeping and renovating for school purposes the 30s building. Yes or no to keeping the 40s and 50s, or assuming that needs to go away. Yes or no to renovating the gym. Yes or no to keeping the portables. I guess you could add yes or no to including the redistribution along with this combination. But it has to go back to, or be paired with, a set of educational specs. And I have an opinion about each of those options in what they would or would not satisfy in terms of educational specs for what we want. And so I have trouble getting to what a motion for a $15 million solution that involves renovation and possible addition at GMS without also understanding the educational pros and cons of each of those pieces and whether they satisfy what we perceive as the educational spectrum.
So I actually agree with you. We had discussed doing performance-based requirements. We need a total of X number of rooms.
Mhm.
Can we accomplish that by space we have in the district and reallocating it, or can we not, and we need an 8-room addition? By voting for one of two options, we're handcuffing the whoever we hire to say, this is the only thing you can look at. If we're doing a true evaluation, we look at GMS and say, okay, I need 20 classrooms, I need 2 for whatever this, I need space for my tutors, I need space for my admins, this is what I need, this is what I have, how do I get from what I have to what I need? No, I agree with you.
That's what you need,
And
right
so, that could include redistribution if they decide that, if the recommendation is, that's the most cost-effective, efficient way of doing it. Or they could say, you know what, I understand your position, but we really can't use that. We really do need to decommission this space. We really do need 10 classrooms. It should be an open-minded, open discussion, and by directing them a certain way, we're not gonna have that.
I'm not suggesting that we only vote for one. I'm suggesting we break them apart and vote on them
Why vote on
individually.
either one of them? We need performance-based specifications.
Carrie, I don't disagree with you. I actually fully agree with you. Like, what you have to go with is like talk to someone and say like, this is what we have at our disposal, right? Like, tell us the different ways this kind of works. Like, I think I had tried to represent that I'm not personally opposed to reconfiguration, right?
It may not be the best option, but let's.
Exactly,
But we have to talk about
You
it.
mean
And I think
redistribution?
that's what the recommendation is.
No,
That
I-
you've
my-
been- this committee has danced around it for like 3 freaking months.
Well, my
Like, it's the
concern is
same
by
thing.
taking a vote on specific issues, we're kind of taking that out and saying, go look at this. Then everything else kind of falls to the side and doesn't get included.
I think what just has to be honored is when people tell us this is probably your best option, that we believe them, right? So if the people we talk to, who are professionals, and do this, and I'm gonna say hypothetically,
Right,
they say, look, the 50 and 60s building is not salvageable.
Right.
Like, from a financial standpoint, it's not salvageable. We have to believe them.
well,
Like
I would
we-
ask for an explanation and
Right,
a logic
not just
behind
like it,
it,
but like-
explain it to me.
But like, if they explain it in a
And
way
it
that
makes
makes
sense,
sense,
then I'll buy
then we
into it.
have to accept that as a conclusion.
And if they say it's salvageable, then we have to accept
We
that.
have to accept that as well.
Yeah, but-
That's fine.
but-
But like, I don't think any of us can say any of this stuff is finite, right?
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
What I don't wanna see us do, and it seems to be a lot of the rhetoric that keeps coming up, is the most efficient, cost-effective solution. That phrase does not say the solution that makes the most sense for our educational needs. It just says it's the cheapest, most effective way to
But you
get out of
can't-
here,
yeah.
and let me finish. And we are backed into the situation we're in now because we had a 30s building and then they added a 40s edition and a 50s edition and a 60s edition and a 70s edition. And each little piece in whatever was the cheapest, most cost-effective thing that could be afforded in that decade. And now we have this big sprawling building with a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't work together well. Some of it's crumbling, some of it's in decent shape, but it's not a cohesive unit designed to provide a certain set of, or a certain level of educational benefit. And I just don't wanna be another Band-Aid on a big sprawling multi-decade building without bringing into the conversation, what does that do for or not for educational benefit?
Which I think is why we did this,
I
right?
thought that was why we did that, so
And so at meetings prior, we
tried to.
we did a prioritization and everything. So, and I think that's one of the things that, you know, and this is where I'm in agreement, that we come up with, here's our list of needs, let's go pair with a firm and say, you tell me the best way to go about this, right? And we can have it in, and this is Kyle Barker's sentiment of, you need to work together, right? This isn't a, you know, here's a spec, go quote me a spec. That's what I do with mechanical minds. And if they come back and the price is way out of whack, then I come back and say, how can we do this for cheaper? Here's what I really care about, type of situation. I think that to me is the recommendation. The only question that I have is, do we want to apply a not to exceed number for this first chunk
No.
when we go to them?
I think we have to have an understanding of the cost, because if it becomes too big, then we're gonna have to look at phasing it, quite frankly.
No, exactly.
When you
So
say cost to
if
exceed,
it's gonna cost 25 million, we're gonna have to
Sorry.
accept, we can't do 25 million, how can we do it in $10 million chunks?
So-
How can we do it in $5 million
Exactly.
chunks?
No,
What can get done for this one?
Right.
I guess.
Right,
Right.
and that's exactly
That's
what Joe Lassard was suggesting at the last meeting too, is when we give them a list of needs, itemize it, right? To get me to read in the parking lot, it's gonna be this.
Right. And I think too, we have to understand, the guys are gonna be quoting the physical structure. How we use it is up to us. So the school board has to say, in order to meet our educational needs, I need these rooms, I need these ones together, I need these ones
Yep.
separate. The contractor is just building the space.
Exactly.
The educational needs and how you utilize that space is
And that's-
not really gonna be the contractor's interest. He'll provide you the space, you need to figure out how you're gonna use it.
Well, that's where also, if they come with a planning mindset, they can tell you, this costs 1 million when you bunch it with these other things, but if you do it out individually, it's all of a
Right.
sudden 1.5,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
there's
just
gonna
what,
be-
you know,
This
like-
would be leveraging, absolutely.
So, I guess, do we wanna make a motion to create that recommendation to the school board? To say,
I would make changes to the proposal that was sent forward, but yes.
yes, and there's gonna be changes just because we do not, the school board does not use QBS.
Well, I also don't wanna limit ourselves to
Actually, they do.
architectural or engineering firm.
That, according to our purchasing policies, it's what I read,
We don't,
Have you adopted that policy?
we do not call out QDS in our policies.
Actually, you do. In fact, it's in, where it's in, is in the federal requirements.
we're not federal, we've had this
Hang
conversation,
on,
Ron.
hang on.
We've had this conversation, the school has its own
I
purchasing
know,
policy.
I know,
Does not have
Peter.
to follow QBS, and I think we need to go design build. I mean, let's just put a point on it.
But,
A design build
100%
firm.
agree
Let me-
with Peter.
And not engineering and then something else. We need to get this done quickly, the costs are just gonna escalate. Whatever we do needs to be done, and more delays creates more and more aggravation
I
for
don't,
everyone.
okay, you can call it whatever you want. This is this RFP for Carl Barker's contract.
Okay?
This is a qualification-based proposal.
So are we for or against it?
It's right there.
Are you in favor of or against? Because I would think qualifications matter.
Oh, yeah, I'm
This,
for it.
this is a
But it also
qualification-based
doesn't take into
solicitation.
account cost.
Right
It's just
there.
you take the most qualified person, and you
So
get the
you-
highest price.
Dan, can you put forward the motion
It's there.
to vote?
Well, yeah,
We need to vote.
Alright,
I'm not sure what I'm voting on, but.
I don't know what we're voting on either, so.
so, I guess
Why don't we, let's do this.
And we no longer
Why
have a
don't-
forum because we lost Bruno, did we?
Why don't you
Bruno's still
read-
there. Okay.
Oh, we lost it.
We lost AI.
Why don't you read, do we want to read what I sent out? Is that the,
I asked everyone to take a look at it before coming here.
Can we put it on the screen?
I can send you the Word document if you want. Does that help?
Sure, yeah, if you have it, that'll make it easier so we can edit it.
I think I do. Come
I
on.
think if you just reply to the last email I sent, it would
Oh, no,
have, it
come
would go
on.
to my sd.org.
I thought I did. I'm supposed to. Uh-oh.
So I guess,
I'm sorry, I don't. I thought I had it, but.
no, it's all good. I gotta go back to my other.
I can, the PDFs on
Yeah.
that email I sent out.
Yeah, it's just on my other email. I'm trying to move
I
everything
thought I had the
over
Word
to my
document, but I don't.
School district.
When did you send that, Ron?
About 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago.
Because I have the 31st of March with the minutes.
I just had it open.
Hang on, let me see if I can find it. FIC, evaluation,
I was on the
investment for
20th.
agenda.
March 20th.
Text, comments.
It was sent on the 19th.
Here we go.
Got it.
I can actually,
Proposed SB.
you got it?
Yeah.
So here's what I think I'm going to do. Is this gonna work? Aha, it does work.
So, oh, you got it, that one.
Review. It is not gonna be formatted the same way. I
Nope.
just did a copy paste from the PDF.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Alright, all markup.
Oh, Brian, before I forget, so I assume I don't need to do meeting minutes for this meeting then?
Yes. School board hasn't voted on anything for next week.
We haven't changed anything in terms of minutes.
But, I mean,
Perhaps
you're
we can
you're
get
gonna,
Jim to do it from the
you're
video.
gonna get it
But ask
approved.
her to do it from the video, yeah.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
haven't done that yet. Just-
But I won't do any until your next meeting then, assuming that you'll do them.
Alright. So, I guess, do we wanna go through and edit this recommendation to what we feel is, that needs to go forward to the school board?
How many people have read it?
We're gonna look at it right now. Those who haven't read it.
Did you just paste that into a Word document? Is
Yeah,
that what
yeah,
you're saying?
that's all I did. And then I turned on track changes.
Denise, do you want to read that?
I read it already,
Oh, you have, okay.
Process FQMS.
but thank you.
You're welcome.
Prioritize RFP task. Overall scope, options, 2 editions of GMS. Proposals to consider. RFP, acceptable budget.
So are we redrafting this as a committee?
If someone would like to make the motion to, I think that would be the most consistent path forward to get through.
Do we need a motion to
No,
edit?
I don't know when we do or do not need a
I think
motion.
you can draft it, and then you can motion to approve it or not.
Right, I think we need to work on it and then say, make a
Right,
motion to accept it.
Kind of right now, you're workshopping it.
The RFP. Evaluation process. Building design for hire. Where'd my mouse go?
So are you adding your notes to it? Is that what you're doing right now, or are you just?
No, I'm just re-putting it into distinct paragraphs as it shows in the PDF. Design to impact. That was giving a chance. Into GMS this. Alright. Do people need to read it? Have they gone through it? Brian, I know you have. You've read it? Yeah.
So my first comment, it would be the architectural and engineering firms, line 3, is kind of narrowing the field more than I would recommend. I'm a proponent of design build and not necessarily, or you could do I don't know, from qualified firms, I don't know.
The difficulty with a design build in this is the scope is so wide, all the way from potentially very low dollars to very high dollars, that we need somebody that's just looking at the design of it to help us finalize that. The difference here, when you did the fire station, it was very definitive. We knew we had, X number of bays, and it had to accommodate so many fire trucks. The scope of it was quite defined. It was not a wild range of options. And that fit into the design-build model.
I disagree that
Yeah,
this
I said
doesn't.
you would come
Like,
in.
design build firms are absolutely capable of working with a client to determine the appropriate work.
Would they take on a project for $3 million?
Why wouldn't they?
A design-build firm?
Why not? The fire station was 5 million, so it's not that far away. They do all kinds of work.
So, I guess.
Can we just make it qualified firms?
Yeah, if an architect wants to pair up with somebody,
Few proposals from,
It'll be a disaster. Let's do it that way.
Peter, should we consider putting in like a, school board selected or like upon approval of the school board or something like that?
As far as for hiring the firm?
Yeah, as for selection of the firm?
No, that's beyond the scope of this recommendation.
Okay,
This recommendation is to put it out in the field, and then the school board will determine.
Right, the school,
which
I mean,
ones.
I guess it's sort of understood that the school board would make the final determination as to
Yes,
which firm you
yeah.
hire.
sounds good to me.
And, the qualified is, like the firms that Brian's describing, right? It's-
There's
people
not that
do
many
this all
places
the
that
time
build
for a
schools.
There are
living.
only so many.
Right.
the school board has the lawyers to help vet these anyway.
Yeah. process-
Actually, in the RFP you put out for the last school, the FIC was the selection committee.
I think it needs to be a board decision.
It
The
is a
board's the
board
one that has the
decision.
Well,
contract with them.
We did the interview,
So-
recommended it to the school board.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
for
That's
this
how
next
it works.
sentence,
For which
Or
one?
can do whatever they want.
The first sentence of the second paragraph, I'm gonna suggest changing this to shall follow all applicable guidelines, from the school board. Shall follow all applicable school board guidelines for hiring services.
Policy.
School
board
district
Policies, school board
School
policies,
district policies.
yes.
Can I ask an
It is the
uneducated question?
format,
Sure.
it
I
is,
thought the school board was just looking for pursued choice number 2 or 9. I didn't think we were supposed to be telling them how to actually select.
I think you can tell them whatever you want, right? And then they can do whatever they want, right? Like, that's what this is, right? If you wanna get this, if you wanna do a recommendation of this nature, this committee has every right to do that, right? The school board can take this recommendation and then do whatever they want with that recommendation. I would advise them not to ignore the work of the FIC, and I think with Peter and Dan here, they're not going to do that,
Yeah.
right? But, and Matt's been a part of this and everything, right? But like, you can do whatever you want for a recommendation, like that's up you, like, Carrie's right, we have lawyers, like whatever we end up doing will be gone through our lawyers to make sure we're doing this on the up and up, right? Like that, and so it might get adjusted from what is written here to what actually goes out to people to read, because we're not gonna put something out there that's not vetted by our attorneys.
So, along that vein.
Can I, what was the original school board asked to the committee? Was it for this deadline? Was it to provide
wanna
a
know
set
my-
of recommendations about
I wasn't on the
Griffin
school board
Memorial
at that
School?
I don't think they wanted to bind this committee to anything specific, but like, as I've said before, I think it was repair, renovate, or build new. Which of the three
But
boxes are you
specific
going
to Griffin.
Specific to
Yes.
yeah.
So I would start with changing the title. This is the recommendation of the FIC to the school board to address the needs of Griffin Memorial School. Not for procurement of design services. I don't wanna tell them how to do their business.
That's what I feel like we're doing.
And like, the reality is, when we start doing this work, we're gonna go to our lawyers, and we're gonna go to other people in the fields who do this type of stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
that-
ask them what their requests for these type of things look like, and different things of that nature.
Yeah, you're, I mean,
Alright, so,
So could this recommendation simply be, we recommend contracting with a firm, design, build, architectural engineer, whatever, to investigate the options available based on who's gonna develop the performance-based qualification, recommendations, requirements? Would that be developed by the school? As developed by the school?
I mean, that's what I would assume.
Right, so so basically, you could just make the recommendation before you get into all those words, say, we recommend, we
Hire someone to help us.
contract somebody to help develop the most, I don't wanna say efficient, cause I don't wanna, but the most appropriate way forward for the town to address a performance-based requirement
That
project.
addresses the financial and educational needs.
Yep,
which
based
is, yeah,
on performance-based, requirements and specifications.
So, and that's where I was gonna head down the path
So I
of.
just don't even go through all this, then, make it.
I
mean,
think
I
if
was
you do
just
that, it
gonna
opens
edit
the
the
door to
process
everything again now. And we're right back at, what are we gonna do?
But if
Well,
we,
limited to the scope of renovations, if you want, like something along that language, right? Something that doesn't involve
A
a
new
new
build.
building.
the requirement,
Throw that in, I
yeah,
think
the
that's fine.
performance-based
Yeah, I think we have to
requirements
put some meat on it.
of Griffin or the elementary school.
what does performance-based mean?
Well, we know that we need X number of classrooms, we want a core in the middle, we want this, and this done. What, at the end of the day, when the project is done, what do we have to work with? We know what we started with,
Right,
so how do we get from where we are to where we'd like to be? That's what we need them to help us guide, because there's a number of ways to get there. It could be building a new Griffin. It could be renovating a section and adding a small addition. It could be redistributing throughout the school and reallocating the freed up space within Griffin. There's a number of ways to get there. Can we get there? We don't know.
What,
alright, so evaluation of the,
how are you gonna put that in the specification,
Well,
because we don't even know
I'm
it.
saying we shouldn't be writing the specification. I think when you go with our list, this is our wants.
well, that's, yes, agreed. So, with the evaluation, the best path forward for the town.
Late night. LD, Litchfield Silver.
Yeah, I'll get that.
All right. To address the concerns at GMS, physical and educational, yep.
I did spell that right.
Why would we bother with all this stuff? To assist in evaluation of the past.
All right.
You have concerns twice in that sentence.
Of the physical and educational,
To address the
Needs.
concerns of the physical and educational concerns.
Address of the physical and education concerns of GMS.
well,
To
get rid of
address
the of,
Take the of out.
yeah, address the physical and education concerns.
How about the engineer, right?
That's why I spell check all the time. That's why I also type everything.
I don't know that we wanna dictate what the process should be, that should be the school board's decision. Like, that's not bad, like predetermined list of educational, that, you want that from the school, or the school will develop, the school in conjunction with the administration and school people, school principal, should divide.
Educational- Do we wanna say, yeah?
Well, I mean, that's the rec,
That's the
right there.
list that we.
That's the
Right,
list of,
right,
at the end of the
right.
day,
What-
You shall incorporate the list provided by the FAC.
What list is it?
We've done that.
No, we have not.
Yes, we have, it's
We
the
have.
yellow
You just
list,
put it.
It is not.
right there.
well, I think you need to be more
Wait a
specific.
minute, wait a minute.
See, I think you need to be more specific though, you know, at the end of the day, how many classrooms do we
Yeah.
have to service the
Correct.
elementary school?
Right.
That's not on the
How many
elementary.
classrooms?
So we'll add that.
Like in total number, like
that
we
is-
have this many classrooms to begin with, this is how many we need to get to.
How many
Predetermined
classrooms?
list of educational specifications,
You don't have a list of specifications, you don't even come close yet.
and it's not our jobs, it's not the FIC's jobs to create that list of specifications. They are here to bring together a consolidated list of concerns. That list of specifications is up to the educational professionals, and I would
Because
also say the school
We don't
board.
wanna get into the weeds, cause if we say
Why
parking
haven't we
lot.
asked them to do this 9 months ago? We would have been way ahead of the game.
Well, 'cause
We should have
some-
the school board do this 9 months ago.
It's okay. So, cause like when we get to like the parking lot, we're not gonna know how many parking spots they need. The school should say, we need a parking lot that'll fit 300 cars. Like, we don't need to get into the details, we'll let them figure that out.
This is ridiculous.
Brought forward by the school district and the FIC and request that firms to provide approaches that they would use to review, evaluate, prioritize solutions for those needs identified. Since we're restricting this to the subject of GMS. Everybody agree so far?
Yep.
I don't think. I would also say, this RFP should be structured as a work order-based contract.
Maybe a dumb question, what does that mean? Is it
I
when
think
say
that
construction?
allows for additional work.
Just read the paragraph and tell me what you think it says.
We can't tell them.
To me,
It's
that-
a recommendation, you can't give shall, you shall do this.
To me, it
under our
sounds like you're
recommendation.
authorizing,
No, I'm just
work
saying
change
that
orders.
it's gotta be itemized for the list of specifications and concerns. So if our list is greater than our price, right, then we
Oh, okay.
know what we can save by cutting
No,
out
what-
certain items.
That's not what I read out of that
A work order-based contract is one in which you say, I want you to look at X, price out how much time you think that's gonna be. And we'll put together the tasks and the deliverables associated with that. I'll give you a price, and the school board approves that. That's a task order. And it's after you hire them. And so the first thing you may wanna look at is, okay, just look at the 1950s building. How much will it cost to do that and assess all the things with it? I'm just throwing that out. All right, I want you to look at the 1930s building. How much for that? I want you to look at all the things at CHS. You can do this all in one, or you can do it in separate task orders. Essentially,
so-
task order has a defined scope. They give you an estimate to do the work and a schedule.
That
Well, then
sounds-
how do people even respond to the RFP if the scope of work is gonna be doled out after you award the work?
So he's looking to have somebody on retainer.
Yeah,
But that seems like a very slow process.
no, it's not. It's quicker than it's not.
Well, if I have to pull together a proposal and then go to the school board for authorization every time I wanna make a change, we're talking presenting it and then voting on it. That's
Well,
2 weeks.
What does the person who receives this RFP give you to help the school board decide who to hire?
A retainer cost.
No,
It's gonna cost me.
You're not
Won't be any
giving them
cost.
any scope of work, you're gonna save that until afterwards and put it in
they're-
task orders that you haven't defined.
So you're looking for the
So-
hourly rate?
Right, a rate schedule and a quals package.
yeah. That's all you're gonna get.
Well, then I
You can
think we
ask
need
for
to have
that
the
at 2
task,
cents.
we need to have the tasks as part of the RFP. We want, this is what we, after we hire the firm, we can say, these are the things we want. They would be broken out into task orders,
After you hire them, right.
right? So,
I-
but I don't know if that works with the design.
If you look at what you did in this proposal for Kyle Barker or the RP, that's exactly what you did, is you hire them based upon the qualifications and their general approach of how they're gonna respond to you and work with you. You get a rate schedule from them so that you say, okay, your rates are kinda in the middle for engineers and all that, I'm satisfied with that. You select them, then you go in and say, okay, now, the first thing I want you to do, we have a meeting and you've looked at the plans. I want you to, how would you approach and what's your specific target and cost and scope to look at all these things on GMS? They come back and say, this is what I would do, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna cost $100,000 and it's these steps, and here's the schedule. That's a task order, and you approve that, and you start off in the first effort.
What happens if you hire the lower cost guy, but he takes twice as long?
Oh, for God's sakes.
So I guess I will,
Like, sometimes it's not always about the
you-
hourly rate. Sometimes it's-
A qualification-based, or, excuse me, I'll stop saying that. A selection based upon the ability of them to do services is based upon their experience in similar projects. And here's all the things I did before, how we did it. You select them based on their success, apparent success, and the same team members that are going to be presented for your project. That's what you select them on. That's
See,
qualification
I
based.
think-
And I know you
Right.
want to do it the other way around.
Well, I think they need to know what the scope is. You say, this is what you want done, it's gonna take us 3 weeks at 4 people for my team, this is my estimated cost, anything above and beyond that is $400 an hour.
That's what you,
$300 an hour. But if you aren't clear in that, like, we don't know,
you need to hire them first and then sit down with them and have a look at the plans. How do you recommend us tackling this? They say, okay, look, such and such, we did it this way. I've looked at this and we need to focus on the HVAC system. My first effort, I'm gonna have my engineers spend, X number of hours looking at this. We're gonna give you options for that. We're gonna go all the way from a rebuild to options to, the greatest and best. I think that's gonna take me X number of hours and it's gonna be, these amount of hours and
so I guess that's
these
the
guys.
difference. I think that should be part of the original proposal, not after the fact.
You
But I don't
cannot
wanna
do
pay
that.
somebody to develop their bid.
No, that's after you select them.
What I would like to do
Oh,
in
man.
this process is when,
You don't
we
have-
send this thing out and we start engaging with people in conversation. And you start with something, just I wouldn't argue for a second, just work with me for a second. Hey, this is what we need and want in a pre-K through 4 school. What is this bad boy gonna cost, right? They give us a number. Let's say it's $10 million. Great, we're off to the running. Let's say it's $30 million. Nope, that has no chance of passing. We can't do that. Let's talk some more. What would it look like, and we'll go to the other extreme, if we build a pre-K through 2 school and then shifted and had to do some stuff over here at CHS, like, cost that out for me. Here's the cost for that. Maybe it's 10 million, great. Maybe it's 30 million, nope, not gonna work for us. And engage in that conversation. That's what I want to do. Because I
And don't
hear
think-
what happened last year that resulted in 9 different options in a $44 million project that got smattered at the voting, which we
And-
can't do again.
And if you don't do what I'm suggesting, what's gonna happen is you're gonna have the voters say, did you open school last year? How much did you
But
spend?
Ron, this is where I'm struggling,
I
because
know.
you say, this is what we did to get Kyle Barker, do it this way.
Have you read the scope? Here, look at, there's the scope.
But that,
Just read
but
it.
you're explaining it right now, that thing, that RFP right there is what you want us to do. And it ended up with us proposing a 44
So I-
million.
No, no,
I
no,
think
no,
what we should do-
no,
why don't we
no,
talk-
that's not
reach out
true.
to the town administrator and see what the proposal was that went out to the fire station, cause they had to build, they had to design it, they had to spec it, they had them on board during pre-construction, how'd they structure it?
There's a successful project that I just went and visited in Bow, that was 3 towns away, that is very close to kind of what we're thinking. I'm sure they have the RFP somewhere where they can
There
press
you go.
print.
Right. So,
Where's
We can
the,
change it from Bow Elementary.
I mean, we do, it's not same, like I have
No.
looked into that. What we are asking to do is different.
No,
Like,
but
I
I'm saying
want-
the preliminary work,
why,
Did they
why,
get an
why is it
hourly
different?
rate? Did they get a?
I'm not gonna,
pre-construction
there
rate?
is just differences. I don't wanna give away all their secrets.
No, absolutely.
There's just stuff.
But the question would
They
be-
went more into a design build mode, but it was not a fully designed
Right.
build.
so I guess
They
Brian,
went
to
to
your,
pre-construction, they had pre-construction.
your-
They had some other things in the
Yeah.
works as well.
Brian, to what you're looking to do, how would I change a paragraph that's being edited right
I
now?
don't know.
He's a math guy,
So
not
I,
an
what,
English
how,
The
what
words
if,
are my thing.
what if
So-
we structured our desires, turned it over to the school board and have them work with legal to sort it out legally?
Legal won't have any idea how to put this together.
Well, but we do have a
I would
business
think-
agent, right? And we have a superintendent who has
Right.
an example that could use as a template and massage. I don't know, I
we are-
think, my
and it's not
opinion is
just
take that
Bo, like,
paragraph
we all
out.
talk to each other. We will talk to all the school districts
Right.
that have recently had
I'm more
projects.
concerned about the next 2 paragraphs. I think that paragraph telling them how they
It's
should
overly
structure it
prescriptive.
should be.
basically what the school board wants is a direction to go, right?
Yes,
So our recommendation is as simple as
go
the
contract
school
a
board
firm.
should put out an RFP to guide the district through possibilities of renovation of GMS.
Which is
Based
kind of
on-
what I am trying to
End of
do
story.
with that, and then everything
And
else
then
below this.
let the school board with legal and other
Yes,
devise all the rest of that stuff.
and so what I was gonna suggest is, do we need to edit this paragraph anymore? Cause that's what I think it says, and then delete everything else below it.
Yes.
No. Sorry.
I'm gonna agree, keep it simple, they want
I
an
don't think we need to
answer.
tell them what the RFP think, I don't think we need to guide, I think we just, the board, we need to, well, I can't, but the board needs to be compelled to begin the RFP process to guide the district through renovation, leave. Please.
No,
I don't think the laughter
Chair,
is helping.
can I ask for some decorum?
I will agree with the decorum. So, guys, we gotta let people finish what they're talking about.
I apologize.
So that's what we need to do. Dan, here's my suggestion. I delete what I highlighted and said the RFP shall request, I'll add in the word shall, the firms will provide approaches, and then basically come work with the district to go figure out what the right solution is. With all of that list of predetermined educational spaces, including the FIC, but I don't think we need to specifically state that at this point.
Can I just advise why I chuckled? The reason being is the organizing meeting of this FIC last year, I suggested doing exactly what we're doing right here.
Okay?
That's why I'm chuckling. We're a year to get to where I said, and what happened was, Carl Barker was sitting in the room and said, oh, I will do that. I will go in and look at all the details for you for $5,000. And it got us all off track.
Okay.
And that's why I'm chuckling, but
In your opinion.
wasted a year.
In your opinion.
So I don't
In
think
my
we wasted
opinion.
the year because one, we came up with a finite list of educational needs that Dan has highlighted. At the same time, we also got feedback from the community, may not be the community at large, but we got feedback from the community as to what was presented, how they felt about it. So I don't think it's a year wasted. I think there was a lot of time lost during the summer with meetings getting shifted around and we really didn't start this process until about September. So beyond that, I agree, long frustrating delays, I understand.
Well, and we eliminated a new building
We-
as
we-
an option, and we also eliminated a repairs only as an option.
I will look at.
So we have certainly made at least some progress in what the scope of our recommendation.
And I think we went from 9 options down to roughly 2.
Can I also address, there's a double standard. We move quickly, we're accused of rushing and not doing
Correct.
due
Well,
diligence.
I'm totally
We
with you.
take our time, we're accused of stalling and slow-footing the process.
I think we're
I
better
don't
off
know-
going slow and doing it right than trying to rush it and end up with another element.
You know, like,
Right.
Sorry,
I
we're
think
not
people
all
will rather see that we took the time to deliberate, to
omniscient
consult.
with perfect crystal.
Some
and
people-
yes, we may sometimes go full circle and end up where we started.
But
And I guess, maybe
It
we get
happens.
accused of being slow-footed,
No,
but
No, my objection, my frustration is I was in the engineering business for 47 years. And I did this for a living. And I advise clients continually. And my frustration is, I honestly said that we needed an engineering firm to advise us, to answer the questions that we've been trying to deal with. And that we will not get anywhere. I knew we would be just where we are now if we didn't hire somebody. That's my
Well,
frustration.
now we're going to design
Okay.
buildings.
But we also
So, guys,
agreed
we got-
that we needed to hear from the town.
we,
And that's,
And that could
We got
have,
20
that could have
minutes
gone in
left.
parallel, that's the frustration.
All right,
got
we
20
can only
minutes
move
left.
forward though, let's move forward.
so, Marilyn,
Yes.
you provided a no in my question. Is there, what was your reasoning behind that?
I think our recommendation ought to reflect, sorry, it's triggering language for me when somebody tells me I should agree with something because I've been doing this for X number of years and you didn't listen to me, so I'm trying to just get past that. But we have done work over the last year and
We
we
have.
do have some specific things. We have the needs list that we went through. So I don't really necessarily agree with taking out consulting that list.
Okay.
And maybe we soften the point of it. So maybe we say the FIC, recommends that you include as an attachment or consider conveying the attached needs list that was provided. And then the next paragraph is written, the work order one out altogether. The following paragraph is written that they should evaluate the cost and feasibility of all repairs as identified in H.L. Turner and On-Site Insight. And I do not want to make them reliant upon those reports to prepare their recommendations. I'm
So,
fine with saying, the school district has commissioned prior reports that are relevant to this RFP, and those are attached. You may consider those in making your recommendations.
It's actually down in the next
But I
paragraph.
don't want them to be tied to that. I'm just, we've gone through those reports and, over and over again. And we did the whole, here's what we looked at for educational needs, and then we ranked them. And I feel like we should at least communicate that the things that we've done are things that this company can consider as they work with us moving forward, and give it to them in advance, so they have it as part of the RFP. That's all I'm saying. I think the rest of it is fine, I think the shortened, truncated, otherwise,
Dan, the
brief
H.L. Turner report's the next,
request.
it's in the next paragraph down.
okay,
It's already there.
yeah, but it's there as they have to tell us the feasibility of implementing these specific things. And I don't wanna tie us to
I would
those
put
two.
H.L. Turner reports, on-site insight reports, and all other pertinent documents. Because there's been a lot of work that's been done outside of that too, that
Yeah,
pertinent documents. Does this sentence work?
Please, so how are we gonna attach all other pertinent documents? I think you say additional documentation is available at request, like, what are you really gonna send them? You're gonna send them the 2 reports and your list of educational needs, right? What else are we gonna attach?
What are
Well,
the,
I was thinking that, I mean, as part of the last project, Kyle Barker and Associates did a 300-something page feasibility study that
Alright,
they may use it, they may dismiss it, but
alright.
we paid for that and we got
Just take out
390.
all.
I just think
Other-
it's very limiting, cause if you say all and like you don't attach, well, you gave me everything I need to
Yeah,
know.
just take out the.
The lawyers are
Or
gonna take the
all.
word all
Yeah.
out
Take
anyway,
it all.
you never put all in a document like that.
No, all, yeah, all
And
in the
other-
last
other-
part, all
And
pertinent.
other pertinent.
Yeah, cause that means like, I've sent you everything, there is no more to know.
Mhm. Please see reference reports. Do we wanna like remove the report names? And just say,
The
Oh, I
document
think you
and-
prefer those 2 specific ones.
and then the list of educational needs and other pertinent documents?
Yep, sure.
Alright,
what are the educational needs, in all honesty?
we spent 3 meetings creating the list of them and prioritizing.
Well,
I
does
would
that
think-
define how many classrooms you need? Does it?
It's not all of them.
Well, that's
It's
the
not just the
problem.
physical structure.
Huh?
It's not just the physical structure, it's other things we need, like moving the core services to the middle, those kind of things.
But I think you can
And I've said
list
this
that.
before, I don't think you're gonna get, and tangentially, or quick aside, I think we need to put a number on this. And whether that's this group or the school board, there needs to be a number.
I
And
would
not,
tend
and
to
not to,
agree.
not to exceed number. And then what we would do, and what I've said before is, the area in yellow, we might not be able to afford all 20. Maybe we can afford the top 10, or the top 5.
But to me, you have to define, what does a gymnasium redesign mean? Are we adding
Right.
lockers, are we
So-
expanding the lift? So
so,
like there actually has
but-
to be some definition in conjunction, with the school and the people
Right.
using. Like, we can't just send this list has to be fleshed out.
understood.
They were
This is
ranked.
just for us
Right,
to look at and go through and say, as we look through this, what do we think is most important?
right, no, I agree, so long as we send like, we need, take the number of grades you're gonna put there times 4 or 5, we need this many classrooms, we need
Right.
this much space, we need 4,000 square feet for this.
Yes.
So long as this list gets translated into specifications, then we're good.
Yeah,
Who's gonna
would be
do
my
that?
expectation, 'cause
Yeah.
I can't hand this to somebody and
The
say,
administration's gonna do
go
it.
quote this.
Dan's gonna do
Go
it.
ahead,
We
Denise.
talked about this and on the fly came up with our top 5. I don't think we actually ever analyzed it and came up. I think 2 of us sent you their list. Did we ever go through it officially with everyone sending their
It's actually
report?
several people, we went through this, and then I averaged it
It was a snow day.
across the board.
Can you bring the green across maybe, so we can figure out which ones specifically are the top 10?
And then I
Did we
can
discuss it
do-
at a meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, so it was that snow day, we weren't, I remember sitting at my dining table. And then finishing the market
Snow
meeting
day.
at Market Basket.
And we were in here and everybody gave their numbers.
I don't think we ever totaled
No.
it up, though.
No, she did, right there.
I know now, I haven't seen that.
No, I like seeing it ranked by the greens, so you can see like, centralization of core space, so I need X number of square feet in the middle.
I believe I did the
available.
top
Or
10.
these services, right?
Right.
Because we're gonna work with people who design
Right.
schools. They're gonna know.
Right, they're gonna
like,
know
what they-
schools, yep.
Yeah, so.
What does accessibility mean? So that's why we need to define
Yes.
these before we put them out.
Right,
And there were a
no,
couple on here that I
understood.
thought were the same too, by the way.
Like
But
speech
that's gonna
expansion
be-
could be that's, I remember talking about this, like centralized core services, if you did it the right way, could actually
Includes-
grab a bunch
right.
of the other things below it.
Correct. So that's what I mean, and yes, there needs to be more definition, because I would send this, if I got this RFP, I would be,
Like-
no, here you go.
I can't quote
Right.
this.
But the educators can help us define what
Correct,
those,
right.
what those
That,
really mean.
that is the part of working, once we hire a firm, to work with that firm to define what this means,
Right,
right? We use their services to help us do that.
yep.
So here's what I would like to do, because we are running out of time. Looking at this, I wanna stick with that one paragraph and just get rid of the rest.
I don't
As
think,
the
yeah,
recommendation to the school board.
because the reality is, the rest of it is gonna come from the lawyers and the school board.
Yep,
So,
That's, and the defining what is and should not be included or the specs of it is all gonna come out in working with the firm.
Do you want to, well, you're gonna leave them to decide what satisfies the qualified firm's definition?
Yes,
Because that's the other stuff that's down here is that they have to have this and that kind
Hey,
of.
can you just, if you want to just cut the rest of it out and then take out the track changes so we can read it?
So later on, the recommendation was the recommendation to pursue the redistribution, wasn't it?
Yeah, it has a whole bunch of stuff in here.
but that could be part of the evaluation of the best path forward.
You want to cut it out, okay.
Well,
Hey.
because we don't, because that could be a path forward, like, we should, we
Yeah,
don't have to
and-
define the paths. That's part of the, this is what we have, this is what we need, and they're like, oh, well, if you look
That would
at.
be a result of a decision if they decide to go that way.
and we can add that, I mean, if we need to put specific language, right? But that, to me, is a part of working with the firm, as Kyle mentioned, so that way the firm doesn't get assumptions as to what they think we want.
Because I can guarantee when it comes forward, one of the questions I'm gonna ask is, did we look at the availability of capacity within the school district? So even if it's not in here, it should be a question, specifically, I see that as part of the path forward. And if it's not, then there will be words.
Well, one of the things that is inherent with this is once you hire, let's take this, once you hire them, how is that going to function? Is that design firm going to be working with the FIC or the school board?
School board.
School board.
So we won't be part of that anymore.
No, that's not what we're saying.
It
They're
should
saying
still be
that they are reporting to and they hired by the school board.
Yeah, I understand that,
A
but
part of that would be is probably coming in and working with the FIC, but that is a decision that the school board has to make.
I understand, but I mean,
So,
is
it'll
the,
be a recommendation that I would put forward that firm, once I'll call it the scope is there, they will come forward with their list of requirements that they got out of it, and we would probably go through it as an FIC. Go ahead.
Are we talking only about the first paragraph in bold as our recommendation?
Yes.
Because it doesn't tell them that we want to pursue any one of those 9, unless I'm misreading it. It doesn't say we want to go ahead and do a renovations and additions or redistribution. There's nothing that says our
We
final
don't,
result.
still, with this give us the information to better make those recommendations.
We haven't given them the answer to the question they asked us.
But you're trying to bias the outcome originally. Like, if we tell them, look at all paths forward, based on what we know we need, knowing what we have, look at all paths forward could be a redistribution. It could be just knocking down some of the older buildings and putting a big addition. It could be just redistributing within the building itself. Like, but if we say, only look at this, we are handcuffing and not looking at all the options, and you're gonna find the project there.
To me,
Do we
it
want
looks
to
like
add a
we-
sentence that just says the best path forward may, but is not necessarily limited to the option,
Otherwise, we
renovation,
reworded the question to
reno-
us.
potential
we
addition
cut it
or
down to
I think
redistribution?
the only thing not the
Yeah.
but if, one of the things you may wanna add is eliminate the new build, because that is something that the group has voted on.
We
and-
don't feel the town would vote for
Right,
No,
but I'm
that's-
saying like from a recommendation standpoint here, right? Like I feel that the feeling of this committee is that this is trying to represent not a new build, but some sort of renovation project, right? And if you want to make sure that is somewhere in your recommendation, that could make sense, right? Cause you don't want I don't think this will happen, again, cause 2 of the board members are here and Matt's been a part of this, where all of a sudden the school board's gonna say like,
Construction
well,
of a
this
new
allows
building.
us the flexibility to go after a new school still, like, I don't think that's gonna be what happens, but if you wanna kinda cover your bases in that standpoint, you can
How
do
about
that.
the FIC does not recommend a path forward that includes construction of a new building?
There you go.
Have we really answered the question they asked us though? They asked us, how should we proceed? And we're telling them, everything except a new building is how we should proceed.
Well, I do think this does answer some of the question that they asked, right? And you didn't, maybe they thought they were getting something specific, maybe they, I don't know, I wasn't there yet, right? Like, maybe the idea was that they expected a very specific option, but I do think this is a natural outcome, and I don't wanna speak for these guys, the board would be upset with that recommendation right there.
I was like, if they were, I would hope that even though we don't have a quorum of the school board, someone would say, objection.
Yes, I do.
You hope they say
School board.
objection?
New
No,
school
if they had a problem with this recommendation, we have 40% of the school board here.
Oh.
Like, there's an opportunity to say, no, we actually would like a little more, or, no, I think we can work with this.
I thought they had said they want one, max 2 options going forward as a
That's
decision.
right. I
still
agree with
think
you.
Thank you.
that you're providing the avenue to get there, right? Like,
Professional guidance.
Right,
Yes.
I think what we're.
My concern is the wording of this, and I don't think we need to change the wording, but I think it should come out in this school board conversation, is I can read that and see that a Kyle Barker feasibility study is a logical result of that. It doesn't eliminate that way. Because the path forward was, here are these 9 options, here's the pros, here's the cons, here's 393 pages that explain the pros and cons. You know, like, I'm just cautioning that that path is available based on the wording of that recommendation, so we just need to watch out for that.
Well, do we want to put after, assist the school board with evaluation and subsequent implementation of the best path forward? Are we doing a design build?
That would be my recommendation.
So
I'm not the building guy.
So assess the school board with evaluation and execution?
Well, now you're tying it to that, what if you have a pre-con guy you like, but you don't like this, you decide you want to go into business with construction of them. If you're saying you're tying into the evaluation and execution, now you're stuck with them for the building part too.
So potential execution?
again,
So-
you got
so-
40% of the board right here.
Right.
So,
This is
but I'm
also
saying, yeah.
a recommendation to the school board, not what the school board's gonna put out on RFP.
Right, exactly, so
So-
realistically, there's gonna be conversations had when you sit down and scope out the guys, like, look, this is our plan, this is what we'd like to see
Right.
come out of this. Whether or not it's properly worded in here, we can have the conversation, they'll be here at some point, we can have the
And that's why I
conversation.
just say, whenever we engage with someone, I think
Well,
we
I-
should show them the feasibility study and say like, we
We're
don't want
beyond that.
this.
Right.
We don't want
We already
another
get this, we
study.
don't want this again.
We have enough studies. We
Yeah.
don't want another study.
And so I guess, cause I agree with you, Dan, what word should I throw in there?
For best path forward for a project that addresses the, like, we don't want to determine which one is, you're right. Best path forward,
With evaluation. I mean,
with
Execution.
determining the best path.
To address and vet the physical and educational concerns at GMS?
with evaluation and address.
I think you're wordsmithing it too much.
I know.
And just talk about lawyers. Hey, lawyer, I want this word.
Because, you know, the school board, essentially, we're to tell them, go hire somebody to help us evaluate GMS.
Have the
That's
ones
what
with
you,
law
that's all you need to
degrees.
say. If that's what you're
So
boiling it down
leave it
to.
as is, and the school board and school
The school- the
administration
school-
people who are here will explain that
Yes.
we don't want another study.
I'm putting
We want action.
not new stuff.
Need to move forward.
Alright, I make a motion to send this to the school board for recommendation as path forward.
Just the first paragraph.
Just the first paragraph.
I second that.
I'd
I have a
fix,
second.
fix the spelling.
I will do a spell check and I'll delete the rest of it after. I have a second on the motion, discussion. Barring none, all those in favor say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bruno, you still on?
You can't.
Can't vote, alright. 6, abstain, alright, I will take that. Opposed? Abstain, 1 abstain, passes 6-0-1. Alright, with that, recap. I am going to fix the spelling and hit F7 on spell check. I will unbold it and I will delete the rest of this, and I will, we could do, I'll send this out, if people have better wordsmithing that they would like to do without changing the gist, I say we just send it
No.
as is.
We're done. Don't,
Okay.
like, send it out because we all wanna
Yeah,
double
just wanna
check,
copy it.
spell
Right.
check, but
I
just
agree.
send it.
With that, any other action items as of this point?
Yes. Egress estimate for,
So we're at a time, I will have that on the agenda for the next one, because back in January, we said that this decision took precedence over other standing items, according to when the school board gave us the deadline. So I will make that,
I have one.
you have an estimate?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Is that for the?
Is this the delayed-
The brand?
breaker bars, what else?
delayed egress bars. All right, any others?
Do you want to, how much is it?
$68,000.
Okay, go for it.
So, vote,
my.
Yeah. It's not cheap.
I am making a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Wait a minute, if I can ask, are you going to present that to the school board?
Well, I thought
I'm
we
not
just
doing it next
agreed
week,
that we
but-
were gonna take it up at the next.
Well, the only
No.
concern there is.
We already made the recommendation.
So here's the timeline
Because
wise.
it's 7:31 and the meeting ends at 7:30.
Well,
No,
the
where
reality
does it
is
say
though,
that?
they're gonna start looking at end of year funds
Yeah,
and
the
encumbrances,
recommendation.
so it's actually probably something that should be discussed before you get to the end of the year encumbrances. Because if it's something that the school board feels greatly about, if there happens to be that much money left, would the school board, would the FIC support that encumbrance? It's actually something you might want to know before our next meeting.
Wait.
I don't think I'm gonna put it on the agenda.
We made a
Okay.
unanimous recommendation to do this based upon it being a solution to a stated safety concern that's been in the public for decades. And for the school board to deny or even, not move forward with that is in violation of the recommendation that we
I think
gave.
our recommendation was to look into the cost of it.
No.
We didn't recommend it. We-
No.
All I'm saying is it's not gonna be on the school board agenda next week.
Okay.
So-
Well, will it be on the agenda prior to our
Can I
next
ask
meeting? 'Cause
why?
We don't meet till April 22nd.
Why would that be on the agenda?
Because I'm not ready to defend it or answer questions about it or
That's
anything
fair.
like that,
He needs
So-
time, he has
All
All
enough.
right, we have a motion, I'm making a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I already seconded it.
Second,
Second.
discussion. All right, all those in favor? Unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Bruno.
Thank you.
So how many boards are we talking for 68,000?
8 of the